My name is Lokwari Williams, and this is my submission for my group presentation. I was unable to attend the presentation in class, but this is my submission for my part of the presentation. I was meant to answer question 3, but I'll start off with giving a brief preview of our topic before I move on to my part to present specifically. So the company that we chose to do our presentation on is BHP. We chose this company because it's a very large company and there's a lot of information, and based on our questions, we thought that everybody would be able to find some information and be able to present this information to the class in terms of the topic. So the two topics that we picked for BHP were climate action as well as gender equality. These two first questions were done by my group mates, and I'll move on to my part, which is, so BHP has quite a few responses to climate action. I decided to focus on the following 3: pushing net zero, carbon offset strategy, and their climate goals and targets. So in regards to pushing net zero, BHP is leveraging areas of control where the organization's decisions have an impact on their overall emissions, seeking opportunities to partner with suppliers and customers to drive better outcomes, and using their influence to act in a leading role in supporting decarbonization, because obviously they're a very large company that's involved in a lot of countries over the world. So using their influence to be a leader would have a great impact on pushing net zero. Secondly, we have the carbon offset strategy. BHP is directly investing in offset generating projects that deliver sustainability, core benefits, and that can provide a long-term supply of offsets. BHP is also working with others to support the move towards mature international and subnational carbon market mechanisms. And lastly, BHP is developing a clear approach to both the voluntary and regulatory use of offsets to meet emission reduction commitments, as well as for structured product offsets to their customer base. And lastly, the climate change goals and targets. So short-term targets to maintain operational greenhouse gases emissions at or below financial year 2017 levels by 2022, financial year 2022. They also have a target to reduce operational greenhouse gas emissions by at least 30% from financial year 2020, levels 18 by financial year 2030. Achieve net zero 19 operational greenhouse gas emissions by 2050, and are targeting a net zero for the operational greenhouse gases emissions of BHP's direct suppliers and the emissions for maritime transport of their products. So this means just all the products that come from their mining operations. They're targeting net zero for the operational greenhouse gas emissions. Moving on to the next topic, we're going to talk about BHP's response to gender equality. So I picked 4 based off all the research I did. So there's number 1 is diversity and inclusion. Number 2 is indigenous employment. Number 3 is regional commitments. And number 4 is the Jasper community, BHP. In terms of diversity and inclusion, BHP employees and stakeholders are committed to not discriminate an individual based off grounds such as gender, race, ethnicity, nationality, sexual orientation, intersex status, mental health condition, relationship status, religion, physical or mental disability, political opinion, and industry union affiliations, pregnancy, breastfeeding, or family responsibilities, or any other attributes protected by law. In terms of indigenous employment, as part of BHP's Indigenous People Strategy, the organization has regional commitments to advance in indigenous employment. So as an example, Australian Reconciliation Plan target for Indigenous employment is 5.75 by end of financial year 2020 across the total managed workforce in BHP Australia. But in financial year 2020, BHP achieved 6.1 Indigenous employments against their target of 5.75. So we can see they beat their target, obviously, and that shows that they are working towards their goals. In terms of regional commitments, BHP has made commitments to advancing accessibility and inclusion for people with disabilities to provide opportunities for protected veterans. An example is in the US, BHP has an employee resource group to support people of color and cultivate an anti-racist environment targeted by so it's a group that wants to work with veterans and sort of everybody to be included. Lastly, we have the Jasper community at BHP. This employee group, it's an inclusion group for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and other LGBT community and its allies. The main of the group is to drive a safe, inclusive, and supportive work environment for everyone by providing advice on ways to reduce bias and ensure LGBT people are respected and valued irrespective of their sexual orientation, gender identity, or intersex variability. So since its formation in 2017, Jasper has grown to over 1,000 members. In financial year 2019, the Jasper Community Group rolled out the LGBT plus inclusion awareness and education sessions across all functions, assets, and most operations, with plans to extend to all operations by the end of 2021. That was pretty much the end of my question, but I'll just summarize by saying the two topics that we picked, gender equality and climate action. There are two very different issues, very major issues around the world, not just within BHP. But I think based on the research and the ideas that have been presented, we can surely conclude that BHP as an organization is acting in a way that is progressing. And we can see that they've identified these issues and they are working with ways to improve the company, improve on themselves, and make sure these issues are addressed. That is it for my part of the presentation. Thank you.